Brought to you by...
Get great tasting candy.
As film enthusiasts, we often enter a new cinematic experience these days with an overwhelming sense of what we should expect. Without even meaning to, we often predict the outcomes of each scene before they are given the chance to play out. And this can many times lead to an underwhelming visual experience. But every now and then, we find ourselves stepping into a story that subverts all of our expectations, and tells the story in a far more unique way than we could have ever imagined. Hello friends, and welcome back to ETF. Today we find ourselves with a suburban woman who fights to be believed as she finds herself stalked by a threatening figure who returns to her house night after night. When she can't get help from those around her, she is forced to take matters into her own hands. Lucky tells the story of a self-help author who cannot help herself. Visually, this is a film like most others, captured in a standard color format with mostly locked down and fluid cinematography. It is a beautifully presented film that definitely keeps you guessing from the very moment it begins. The composure of the shots throughout this film is done with great care. Care to provide the emptiness and loneliness that our character feels. Care to distance ourselves from her and isolate her. The star of this one is actress Brie Grant, in a role that is very different than anything I've seen her in before. It's good to see her transition into more mature roles than the ones I remember her from in shows like Heroes. The score in this film is kept mostly simple, and what you might expect from your standard horror thriller. However, at some point, it almost feels like it's trying to play like a parody of a slasher film score. We begin this story in the midst of an internal struggle that our protagonist is experiencing. The career that she has built for herself is slowly fading into the shadows. Life, for the first time, feels uncertain and without direction or meaning for her. Suddenly, the film goes through a complete tonal shift as the house is descended upon by a masked killer, but it's not this disruption that changes everything. It's the fact that her husband responds to it without any real acknowledgement. He treats it as if it's happened 100 times before, and they are just reliving an event again and again, like it's just another part of their nightly routine. This is where the film began spiraling into a strange and obscure territory, as she acknowledges the oddness of these events, while at the same time, no one else seems to find it to be strange. There is imagery of a plate early on, one that is removed from the dishwasher with a crack running through its surface. As she messes with it, the plate breaks away. The first cracks in her psyche, perhaps, beginning to break through into reality. There are other strange details throughout the film, like the fact that our protagonist's phone has a case on it that doesn't actually go with that type of phone, which we can see by the camera knot hole mostly covering the camera lens, or when we see a shard of glass stuck in her finger without ever finding out how it got there, and it never being acknowledged again. Or when she hits her attacker with a bat, yet he falls to the floor with a knife in his back. Or the fact that her reflection in the mirror shifts independently from her. The cracks in her mind begin manifesting themselves further into her surroundings the deeper we get into the story, through a fractured window pane, a broken vanity mirror in her car, until finally they begin pursuing her through the walls of the parking garage, where everything culminates. Things begin escalating beyond the strange and into the downright bizarre, as more people seem to begin to acknowledge the fact that this has all been repeating for far longer than we have even seen. I think the idea that this film is playing with creates a strange, awkward atmosphere to the entire film. Here we are enveloped in this situation, experiencing it for the first time with our protagonist, while her husband acts like this has been happening every night for as long as they can remember. The atmosphere for me seems to bring down any real excitement that the film could carry with it. At some point in the film, I began to develop a theory about what was going on. It started to take shape and form the story that I felt I was watching. I began to wonder if a home invasion had occurred at some point in our protagonist's life, and it resulted in her husband's death. And that what we are seeing through this film is her coping with that loss, trapped in the night of her greatest trauma, and unable to move on. This would explain why things feel so strange, why her husband disappears for stretches of time, and why the killer keeps returning each night, seemingly being unkillable. I first clued into this idea with the way her husband's sister was interacting with her, talking to her, and looking at her the way one would look at someone who lost someone. The thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me is why those around her would just be playing into her delusions. We learn that the reason for her trauma stems from her own guilt. She feels that she has ruined their marriage because of her past infidelity, and is now punishing herself by locking herself in this endless loop of violence. Then we suddenly find out that her assistant is experiencing the exact same thing with a different killer, and then that multiple women are experiencing it in this extended parking garage sequence. What I got from this film was that it centers around a woman who has experienced trauma that has pushed her into self-isolation. She feels that she has to go through life alone, because no matter what happens, she will always be in danger. She will always be a victim. I feel like we're watching her mind try to prove to her to learn that she can't go it alone, that fighting it alone isn't the answer, but that she also cannot escape the mistakes that she has made, that she can't outrun them or push them away. They will always come back to haunt her. It's a story about punishing oneself and learning to accept that this is how things are. I'm giving Lucky an A. This is a weird little movie that is definitely exploring a strange perspective. It's a refreshing take on a mostly played out idea. I love that the film plants these little clues that are often easy to overlook. It provides the pieces to a puzzle and allows you to try to put them together yourself by the time the conclusion comes. If you have Shudder, definitely give this one a watch.
A woman has a sudden image of a black mountain that's moving, with children trapped underneath it. 2 hours.
A lot of people ask me how I decide on what films to cover here on the channel. Truth be told, with the hundreds of streaming options that I have access to, it's quite easy to pick and choose from the lot. But one of the ways I keep myself stocked with new films to ponder is with Horror Pack. Horror Pack is a horror film subscription box that brings 4 carefully chosen fright flicks on your choice of either Blu-ray or DVD to your doorstep each month, bringing back a little bit of that video store nostalgia, without ever having to worry about returns or late fees. How does this work, you might ask? Using our affiliate link down in the description, just head on over to horrorpack.com. Choose your plan of either DVD or Blu-ray. Select the payment option that best suits your needs. The longer the plan, the more you save. The Frightful staff packs and ships your horror pack to you, so one day you wander out to your mailbox and find a tightly packaged nightmare waiting for your viewing pleasure. As I mentioned, Horror Pack offers a variety of payment plans that best fit your needs, starting at just $24.99 a month for a month-to-month plan. And the best part, not only are you introducing yourself to a whole new world of horrors, hassle-free, but you're watching your collection grow without ever having to lift a finger. So get yourself Horror Pack and grow your horror collection today. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider supporting ETF on Patreon. You don't have to give a lot, every little bit helps this channel grow and helps us bring you new content to enjoy. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you aren't already. Click that bell icon to be notified on all our future videos, and I will catch you all next time. Thanks for watching.